We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. If you will stand and say the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And Mr. Hankins, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Dr. Vernon is absent.
I would accept a motion for approval of the minutes for the October 28th meeting.
So moved.
And a second.
I'll be glad to second.
Thank you. Mrs. Regola-Dye and Mrs. Feasel. Roll call.
Ms. Regola-Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried. All right, we will move on to comments of board members, and I guess Mrs. Regola-Dye, would you like to start tonight?
Sure. Welcome, everybody. It's just great to see you. I don't know who rode up on their horse tonight, but I got a feeling it was one in particular. I didn't know we had hitching posts up front. But welcome, everybody, and it's great to see the young faces here. This is what we're all about. And when I was at the Ohio School Boards Association conference, it was about you. So thank you for being here, and continue to do your good work. And, of course, our staff is right there with you and hoping that every success will come to you in the future.
And Mrs. Feasel.
And I will say welcome as well. And so we have NAS students, am I correct? High school students?
No, this is all high school.
Oh, all high school. Just see, I guess, a NAS sweatshirt. I was doing some quick math, and I know, Jody, you've been on the board longer than me, and also Dr. Bennett, but I have one more meeting, and it has been a delight. So I just, continue to be so impressed. The middle school veterans, and I've heard so much about Wigan Street. And, this is just kind of a heartwarming thing. So, we hear about the Gateway, we hear about high academics, but telling people goodbye after attending the memorial weekend, the middle school veteran celebration, I went in the office to tell people goodbye. And so I hear the story that there was one really sad student and how the office staff were just huddled around and they took care of that situation. That's heartwarming. And so I will have been on the board 8 years, one more meeting, and those are the things I hear and feel about this district. And I'm really proud to have been a part of this.
Mr. Johnson, thank you, Cheryl.
Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you.
And Dr. Bennett for
Yes.
and having the opportunity to work with you for some additional years. Cheryl, for what you've done, and it's been a delight working with you as well. And we welcome everybody here tonight. I did have the opportunity to have at least a day at the OSBA, and being able to see things in a completely different light. Bouncing around from class to class and this smorgasbord of things to hear. One was legislative things for 2020, which is further brings in all the more reminder to me of the challenges that school districts have in trying to meet all of the things that are thrown before you. I was glad to sit there and hear it, but yet it was overwhelming. But yet I get to go back to Ariel. But you all live with it every day. And so thank you for what you do to try to meet all the requirements thrown upon you. But I just want you to know the board is here to support you. But I think that we need to make sure that we understand all those things that and the impact that it has on our district. The other thing is that, on a lighter note, it was interesting to go to some of the classes that were more about education for the future. One was education and automation. And it was very, very interesting as they were talking about it's easier to plan 10 years out than it is 5 years out. And to listen to the justification for that. And then the Patel had a very interesting presentation on pathways for students. So this is an exciting time with all kinds of things coming at us. If you can segue away from all the legislative stuff and get over to the opportunities that are in front of us as a school district. So again, but thank you for coming tonight.
And again, I just want to welcome everybody. Dr. Bennett sends her regrets that she just wasn't up to, she's had some setbacks, and so she wasn't up to coming tonight. So she does send her regrets. I too, as we enter this season of Thanksgiving, I think as a district, we have lots to be thankful for this year. The passing of the levy and the support that we continue to receive from our community is outstanding. And to me, that says you guys are doing the right thing. And I mean, in terms of our building leadership, our students, our teachers. So we're here just as kind of a sounding board for you. So thank you for all that you do for our children. I was able to go to the conference for a day and a session, day and a half, and went to two classes that really kind of hit me hard, creating a trauma-informed school and SEL action in every classroom. And I walked out of there thinking, you know what? We're on it. We are doing all of these things that they're talking about, and how fortunate for our kids that we build those relationships with them, peer-to-peer, peer-to-teacher, teacher to building principals, principals to our students. And to be in a district that cares this much about our students is amazing. I walked out of the sessions thinking I was going to learn a whole lot more than what I thought I knew, but I walked out being proud that we were from Mount Vernon, that we are intentional about our students. So thank you for all that you do. I'm excited. I love watching the videos, Mr. Payton. So I cannot wait to see hopefully some video in action. So with that, thank you for coming, and I will turn it over to Mr. Cedar.
Well, I too would like to welcome you. We're glad you're all here. This is a night where we get to highlight some things going on at the high school, and at the same time, we have some commendations, and I understand some people might have been brought here under false pretenses that are going to be recognized here tonight. However, you're awfully special folks, and so under our commendation section, we have 3 folks we would like to honor and recognize. I'll save the last one, the OSBA media one, for the end. I know Grant isn't able to make it. But I'd like to start with Wiggin Street. We highlighted Wiggin Street last month, and I got to tell you, I was at their Veterans Day Assembly, and it was incredible. Thank you to the staff and the students at Wiggin Street. You know, I've been to a lot of really good ones, and a middle school is about as good as it gets. What I noticed at Wiggin Street that struck me was how it seemed like everybody was involved. I mean, sometimes, you know, you have your small group of students who are really out in front, but yet whole classes stood up and read poems, whole classes stood up and sang, and great job by the Wiggin Street staff. And I know you wanted to recognize your behind-the-scene persons last month, but she was just unavailable, and so here she is tonight. So, Matt, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, it's great to be with you once again, for inviting me back. Well, there is only one person in this room that was with me at 6:30 in the morning last Friday. Well, there are 2 people, and the second person is her husband. He was voluntold. So, you know, when we talk about champions of character, when we talk about being a champion, there's no other person that I can think of than Amanda. I mean, she is truly that champion that we're looking for. Great character, very humble in what she does. And what's great about Amanda is that she doesn't look for recognition at all. She keeps the waters calm. She listens to everyone. She does a wonderful job, and there's been a lot of listening that has occurred over the last 2 years. So Amanda began volunteering at Wigan Street School about 4 years ago, helping out with several events like Pumpkins on Parade, games for the Fun Festival. She was first elected co-president of our PTO 3 years ago and has been president for the past 2 years. Amanda has an amazing way of communicating our school's needs and connecting the community to support our endeavors. One of her biggest projects have been collecting plastic caps, these little bottle caps, for our buddy benches. And it was because of her that we have 4 buddy benches on our playground that are being utilized. She also not only collected those, but her and her husband took those caps to Indiana in a trailer. Now think about how many people we work with and how few people would do that. Not many people would travel that distance with bottle caps from a school. So we thank her for that. She also picked up the benches and brought them to our school and had them delivered. So she was involved the whole way through. She's an amazing, amazing lady. Another major undertaking was a grant writing project with the Energy Co-op. And it is because of this grant that she wrote with our input that we were awarded $4,000. And you will see on the agenda tonight that the PTO has graciously donated over $14,000 for us to get books in our book room. It all started with her. And we thank her for that. She's been very helpful in organizing the Mumpkin fundraiser, our back to school night celebration, welcome center with a photo booth. How many back to school nights do you see with a photo booth for kids? Amanda has one for our kids. She's again been involved with the Donuts for Grown-ups event and supporting us in every single way possible. So we really appreciate you, Amanda, and we want to recognize you and your efforts, and of course, Josh, but mainly you, because you're amazing people.
I don't know if I like it right.
Thanks.
Come on out front here, man, so we can get you on forever memorialized on our thing. So on behalf of the Board of Education, we're just so pleased to have folks that are behind the scenes person. And it was apparent watching you a little bit. You know, you don't really want to be out there in front, but
I like to be the behind the scenes.
that's what makes it so much more special. So on behalf of the board, a small token of our appreciation.
Thank you so much.
So without further ado, with the high school setting, Mr. Will, if you could take it over.
So it's my privilege tonight to recognize Maureen Helser Moe, and this being my 4th year in the principalship at Mount Vernon High School. My first experience with Moe has been as a parent advocate, working with our students and our families, being a resource for them, working with our administration, with our guidance counselors and teachers to make sure kids have the things that they need. This year, Mo's roles changed, and she's now our school liaison with the CRC. And one thing about Mo is she is not going to leave a stone unturned when it comes to kids. And I think that makes us better in serving kids. And I know for her, whether kids are long-term or short-term, I know that she has her best interest in mind. Even last week, I know we worked for a student that may not be with us very long, but making sure things are in place for that transition. And we have some kids that just don't have that. And so we're very appreciative of her efforts and what she does for the students at Mount Vernon High School. Mo Helser.
Well, Mo, first of all, when I first got here, Mo was in the current role she's in. When she came and told me she was going to kind of go help the big fella and do some other things, I was really sad to see her go. Knew she wouldn't be too far away, and I know you stepped into some other roles, which was wonderful. But when I heard Mo was coming back, it just was a pleasing feel about that. And you're right, you never leave any, I won't say stone unturned, maybe log uncut. But we certainly appreciate everything you do for the district. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Small token of our appreciation.
And then I have, I think what I'm going to do is Grant Pepper is received an award from the Ohio School Boards Association. I'm going to wait till I'm going to make him come back here, quite frankly. I'm not going to give him an award posthumously with him not being here.
No.
And so I'm going to make sure that we give this to him. But, folks who want to really be active and come out in our community and be part of the media and really, are transparent and support the schools and tell the stories, it's important. And so I'm going to wait to present this to him, and we'll make sure we get him hopefully in December when we get Grant back. So we'll kind of move on in our agenda. So under reports and public participation, like I mentioned, we do honor and recognize a school every month during the school year. It just so happens we have 8 schools, so we have 8 months prior to May when we're in session, and May is a special month because we honor retirees. So the month of November happens to be the high school. And so I'm going to let Scott Will or his entourage come up and share with us a little bit about some of the new and innovative things that Mr. Thompson was sharing about that, quite frankly, we're trying to step up and do at Mount Vernon High School. So, Scott.
Thank you, and I'm not going to talk very long because we do have some kiddos here who are doing some pretty neat things at the high school. Less than a year ago, Mr. Cedar came to me and he had seen a program at a conference, and he had brought the potential for that program to come to the high school. The Gen Yes program is a pilot, and really not knowing what that was going to look like at first. And one thing that we are blessed with at the high school is we have some teachers that really are passionate about their specific areas, and Mr. Wiles is one who stepped up with our kids in computer science and wanted to take the reins and be a leader in this program. Have had some other help with Mr. Coughlin, Mr. Fry, Mr. Course, our librarian, and also Mr. Lang and Mr. Doyle have been huge in this process. And so over the course of the last 3 months, we've had 13 kids get immersed in the program, and they're going to talk a little bit tonight about what they do. Mr. Wiles?
Rather than just have them get up and tell you what they're doing, I created a little video to actually show you some of the things that they do. So I thought we would start with the video and then have them introduce themselves and kind of tell you what some of their favorite parts about the program are. So.
Questionable student antics.
Oh, we're recording already? Oh, sorry. Hey, hi, I'm Mr. Wiles. We created this short little video to give you an overview of our Gen Yes program, which we're piloting this year. So first, let me start off with what is Gen Yes and what's its purpose. From their website, this statement, our mission is to overcome K-12 technology integration challenges by preparing students to join educators in the school transformation process. So we do this by training our students, or what they call the student technology leaders, STLs, in various aspects of technology, and then we send them out into the building to provide support for both teachers and students. So let me take you over to the Gen Yes software to show you what our students are learning and show you some of the reports so you can see what they're doing. So here we are on the Gen Yes website. We're currently on the Learn tab. This is where the students started out learning how to use the program. They were introduced to the Gen Yes basics. And now we are starting to get students into the second section where they're learning some of the content creation software for digital art, video, web publishing, game design, that kind of stuff. We've also spent a lot of time on the IT support side of it with repairing our Chromebooks. So the hardware maintenance, software maintenance, that type of stuff is very important. Then eventually our students will move into this section, the mentoring skills. So once they have become experts in particular areas, then we want to train them to go out and be the teacher and start working with teachers and students. And then we have some advanced units, 21st century schools, community service, and some college and career exploration lessons as well. Each lesson, let's go up to one of the hardware maintenance. So each lesson is broke down into 3 sections. I think section, a learn section, and a do section. So they're given something to think about first, and they go through the learning process, and then they have an activity where they need to do something. And most of these activities have them creating a TAP along with it. So let's go to the TAPs. TAP is short for Technology Assistance Project. So each time a student completes a project, whether it's one of the modules that they're learning, or if they provided repairs for a Chromebook or whatever it is that they did, they create a TAP. So we can see we have 143 TAPs that have been completed and verified by either myself or Mr. Course. We've got 6 completed that I need to look at and verify, 1 that's been partially completed, and 11 that are currently in progress. If we go over to the classes, kind of get an overview then of each student and what each student has completed so far. And then if we look at the impact, we see that we have, as we just saw, 143 verified TAPs. Right now, IT support is by far the highest category for the first 9 weeks. That's really all we focused on. So we have 90 TAPs that were IT support. Now this 9 weeks, we're starting to get a lot of students working with the content creation learning software. So we have 44 TAPs in that area now. Over here, we see that we have 171 hours of time spent by these students doing various activities. And then here in the middle, you'll see that we have only 7 staff members currently who have been helped. 59 have not received any assistance yet, which is to be expected right now. Our students are still learning. They're at the beginning stages of this program, but as they become more experienced, more comfortable, instead of just staying in the room working on Chromebooks, we want to get them out into the classrooms and actually working with the teachers in their classrooms. Now that you have an overview of some of the things they do, let's go out and meet some of the students and see what they're working on. So what are you working on, Damien?
We are working on taking 2 TVs and putting them together. In one of the TVs we had a bad screen, and in the other one we had a bad case and motherboard. So we are kind of putting them together to make one working TV.
So Connor, what are you working on?
One of the Gen Yes modules is digital art. I'm using Adobe Illustrator to create vector images.
All right, very nice. So you made that guitar?
Yep.
Impressive. So Blake, what do we have going on here?
So here I'm working on one of the Chromebooks from the elementary schools. One of the modules that we work on is working on computers and hardware maintenance.
So Chelsea, what are you working on?
One of the Genius modules is leadership skills. I'm learning management, supervising the boys. Speaking of which, Blake, why don't you show us what's on the shelves over there?
So here we have the Chromebooks that need fixed, and then Chromebooks that are going back to the students. And then over here is all the parts from Chromebooks that aren't working anymore, so that way we can use them on Chromebooks that do work.
So Ethan, tell us what we have behind you.
Well, here's where we keep all our Chromebooks. These are the middle school ones. Right here are the older Chromebooks and the teacher Chromebooks. And over here we have the unassigned high school Chromebooks. Speaking of Chromebooks, Blake, can you toss me that one that you just finished there?
Here you go.
Oh, thank you.
One thing I didn't mention in the video is that these students are volunteering their study hall time to do this. So that 171 hours is hours that they have that would have been study hall time that they could be using for other things. They are donating that time to do this work, to learn this, to work on our Chromebooks, that kind of stuff. So definitely appreciate having 13 kids willing to do this year. Like I said, it's a pilot program. We're really hoping to continue to build it and expand it in the coming years. And these guys will become then the trainers and will teach future students. So that Chromebook that we threw across the room, Blake, which I'll have them introduce themselves here in a second, he took the time to build that for us from all components that were no longer working. We've been storing a bunch of non-working components. We're going to have some fun with this eventually. And then we found out we're going to get to do this presentation. It's like, here's our time. So, guys, go ahead and stand up. And John, do you need them to come up here so you can see them? So go ahead and come up here. Introduce yourselves. Tell them what grade you're in and your favorite part of the program.
So my name is Blake Ward. I'm a sophomore this year, and I'd have to say my favorite part of doing GenYes is working on computers and being able to help people with problems that they aren't sure how to fix, and then being able to fix things and allow them to be productive again.
My name is Damien Griswold. I'm a junior, and I think my favorite would have to go along with Blake's, being able to help people in a one-on-one situation with issues that they're having.
My name's Chelsea Wiles. I'm a freshman, and my favorite part is working with teachers and students and learning software.
Okay, thank you. Any questions any of you have for them? Put them on
Where
the
is
spot.
your workspace?
It's up off the library. We have a couple rooms up there that we work on.
Will this be able to become an accredited class in the future?
We are actually giving them credit this year. We wanted to, since they're donating so much time, we wanted to be able to give them some type of credit. So we're giving them credit, and on their transcript, it'll show up as computer science internship. So yes, Mr. Will's willing to do that, Mr. Cedar. So.
Will this qualify for a seal on graduation?
We're working towards a seal that will include this aspect.
Wonderful. And then I have a printer that is not working.
Yeah, I mean,
Bring it in? Okay, great. Thank you.
You know, the thing that I think was so unique about this particular program, and by the way, we're one of just a few small handful of schools in the whole state of Ohio that has embraced this opportunity, is that, you know, we have over 4,000 Chromebooks now in Mount Vernon City Schools, and obviously a tech department of a few individuals with all kinds of other responsibilities. It's quite an undertaking just in and of itself. And so to have students who have a real interest in lots of these areas, and there's IT and there's gaming, and we've got modules that we're going to really introduce in the coming years, to have them be a part of it and to really help assist is incredible. I know they came up with a neat system recently. John, I don't think you have one here, but we've got these little crates that go to each one of the buildings, and if there's one that's not working, they put it in. It's put on our transport vehicle that's brought to the high school, and the students get a chance to work on it. The other thing that I think is really unique is the ability for students to work with teachers. Quite frankly, our teachers, sometimes they don't use technology because they're afraid they'll screw it up, or they just don't know anything about it. So it's easier just not to embarrass yourself or to get involved because I don't know. Once the relationships get built, and just as you know that you were struggling there, or a teacher is struggling with a projector, to be able to have the confidence to call down to some Gen Yes students. And really Gen Yes, the yes part of it means youth and educators succeeding. That's what the YES. So it's a combination of our students and our teachers working together to succeed in some really neat ways. So we're excited that we're kind of one of the pilot programs. We're the only program in the LACA area that is doing this. And Scott and the team have some real visions for this moving forward. That might be a pathway that can kind of set us along.
That's great. How many students?
13.
13.
Are you covered throughout the day, Ken, with students, or do you have little breaks in the schedules?
Our goal was to have at least 1 or 2 students up there each period.
Okay.
So like my schedule in the morning, I have classes all morning. I only get to work with them in the afternoon. But we do have, I believe, all but 2 periods covered. We don't have anybody 9th period, and I think there's a morning period, like 3rd or something, where we don't. But yeah, I went to study halls trying to find students to recruit to get into it.
That's
So that is
wonderful.
our goal in the future, is to have maybe 4 or 5 students in there every period throughout the day. So there's always somebody there to help and go out in the classrooms when needed.
That's great. Now, will it be like an elective on course scheduling for next year? Do you know? Is that the plan? Great.
But
That's
it is
great.
elective with an interview process,
Right.
because this is a group that we definitely want to get high-level kids that can, since
Absolutely.
like I just said, I have classes in the morning, I can't be up there with them, so we need kids that can function on their own and not have an adult supervising them. Now, Mr. Course is up there, but he's busy with his library duties as well. So if they need an adult, he's there, but yeah, fortunately we have this year 13 top-notch students, and this is 3 of
That's
them
great.
right here.
That's great.
One of them got drug into it.
Yes. Sorry, Chelsea.
She's already learning leadership skills, let me tell you.
Good example.
All right, thank you so much, Jen. Yes, folks, appreciate it.
Okay, our second program we're going to highlight tonight. We're really excited about getting this back going, but video announcements. It's been hasn't been around for the last couple of years, and we've been very fortunate to have a teacher in the building who's very passionate when it comes to kids. First and foremost, and tapping into their potential and creating opportunities for them to shine. And Mr. Payton really has taken video announcements and his continually each week the kids have continued to improve and taken it to a new level. So I'll let him talk a little bit about his program.
Thank you, Mr. Will. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking because the kids have come, they prepared some good stuff. I found it kind of ironic that Jen Yes did a video and my video guys opted to do a live. So we'll roll with that. But no, I got a young family and I was involved in debate last year and it's just not the season of life for me. And so my wife was, wanting more of me at home on the weekends, but then this opportunity came up and I mentioned it and she said, you should jump into that, you should do that. You like doing this sort of thing, putting videos together, and I like working with kids. And so I applied to it and got signed on to it. When I first came to the high school, they were doing video announcements, but it was very basic level. They were just having kids basically read the announcements in front of the camera, and that went away for a while. And I always thought this could be something really bigger, something that really kind of gets kids who are interested in things like video broadcasting and news writing and the behind-the-scenes production elements, and really make something that the school could be proud of, that they want to watch. And so I jumped at it, and they looped me into it, and they dangerously told an INTJ they were going to give me a blank slate, and so I said, okay, let's do it. So I came up with kind of a framework and put a hype video out there and got some great folks involved. We actually have quite a few young ladies as well, but it's mostly guys that came out tonight. So we are an equal opportunity organization. But I want to invite my gentlemen to come up and share a little bit about what we do, how we do it, and kind of what the sorts of things they do behind the scenes. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys. If you would introduce yourselves and you guys prepared your thing.
Should we go over there?
Yeah. How about up there so they can get you on camera? Right up there.
Put yourselves back there. We'll make a line. Wait, I don't. Make a line. Whoever's
Behind me. Okay. Yeah, you three.
You're in
there, Earl.
You guys have stuff to talk about. It's not just me reading.
Cut this part out.
Take care of that in editing.
Yeah. All right. I'm Josh Kellen Foley. I do many things around MVTV, but I'm going to start us off by taking us back to a long, long time ago when there was a thing called Channel 1 News. Now, this came to schools and placed big, huge TVs, not flat screens, big, huge TVs with dome screens on the side of classrooms to watch the news and watch certain advertisements that are geared towards high school kids. And this was doing very well in this back when. They even made a studio for students to, make their own news for the school. And so even there's a studio added to the high school that we go to, but this is like ancient history for us because nowadays all those TVs just lay dormant and never used. We just have projectors. And I didn't even know that there was some ancient studio until this hype video came out. So once MVTV got set up into an actual club and people were actually coming together, we sort of unveiled all this ancient history, as we call it, and we found a studio that was in robotic ruin because the robotics club was there, and dust. And we've since undust and cleaned the studio, and it's been growing ever since with new technology, new fresh minds. So MVTV, kind of like MTV joke. MVTV is a weekly show, Fridays for every full week. So no next week with break. So every full week we have a show, and it's about a minimum of a 10-minute show. And we do this sort of in sections. So MVTV has teams for each section. So we start, obviously, if you're going to have news, you're going to have anchors. So we have a team that's studio team. So we have 2 anchors, one person that does all the computer work and has the teleprompter, and we have one person filming, and one person pretty much is in the room to make sure no one's coming in to make noise. So that's our first team. Second team, we have journalism, which is kind of a bigger part because it's not just arriving on the day of filming and you just say things. You just do transitions into whatever you're leading into. Students that join this team, and we've had several come in and like it. We've had several come in and say they don't like it and come out. It's been a fluctuating team, but journalism is a fully student-based writing of whether it's local or global news, and they write their own, what they're going to say. They film it in the studio, and they get to be their own, news presenter, or they have someone else do it if they're not comfortable. And it's a great way of having student-written creativity shown in front of everyone. So that's the 2 teams that I'm going to introduce. Now I would like to introduce sports.
I am Sean Kendi, and I'm one of the few members of the sports team. For sports, we just go to the games, we record some footage, we take pictures of the games. Some other stuff we're trying to do is eventually we're going to be interviewing coaches and players. And we don't just cover one sport during the season. We try and cover all the sports if we could. Well, if we can. But some other stuff we sports people do, we edit the videos for sports. We try and record as much stuff as we can from the games. And anything sport related we do. And I would like to introduce music and arts.
Hello, so I am Reed Schroeder, and so the music and arts team, they pretty self-explanatory cover the music and arts at the school. Shocking, I know. But so the music and arts people, they go out and get pictures, or they go to student artists and talk to them about their art, get pictures of the art, kind of showcase that to the whole school. And they also go to the various concerts of the band, orchestra, and choir, and get footage of that, kind of do some, or spread that music around at the school-wide stage. And and obviously for marching band season, they had to go to some of the games and get footage of that. Just overall, just covering music and arts at the school.
Hi, I'm Bryce Vernon. I'm here to represent the advertising team. Now, here to present our own character creation, who we carved out of the ice ourselves. Here to present his wisdom and ludicrousy. Please welcome Earl Smith.
I don't know where I am, but
Found him in the studio.
So, basically what we do on advertising is we sometimes send out emails to remind clubs and stuff to submit their information so we can, promote their club. And sometimes we do a skit, sometimes it's just a slideshow. And I mainly do the editing for these ads, and sometimes I'm there till like 8 o'clock just editing all this together.
Yeah, our purpose here is to advertise those clubs so we can get more student participation in those clubs while also entertaining the students at the high school with our skits.
Process. We do entertainment. There's the This Day in History segment that we try to do every week. This week we're using the green screen. I still got to write the script for that though. We have a lot of other big projects planning in the making. We're remaking the Joker trailer with Earl. That's gonna be a fun one. There's just a lot of stuff we want to do, but sorry.
Give away all their secrets.
Okay.
We didn't talk about this.
Fun.
Good job, guys.
Alright.
So next we'd like to introduce the IT team.
Right. I'm Joseph Kennedy, and I'm here to represent the IT/intros and
I'm also
transitions.
here
And
again.
I have my pal Reed Schroeder, if you'd like to introduce himself.
Well, I already introduced myself, but yes, I'm Reed. I'm here again. Yeah, so on the IT team, we help with a lot of the technological aspects. So we help run the cameras, get the microphones set up, because in the studio we have microphones. So we have to get those set up. We help with running the computers, editing.
Yeah.
Just a lot of those things.
We are kind of like the glue to MVTV.
I mean, yeah, we keep it from falling apart from people not knowing how to use technology. And so,
We got a new piece of equipment for one of our most recent episodes. It is one thing, a stabilizer.
Yeah,
which
it's a lot of fun.
Yeah. So
it's not working right now, but
it does.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, that's cool.
So you can go hold a button, and then it keeps the camera in place, no matter how much no matter how shaky your hands are.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
definitely. That's all. That's your more your
Yeah. Also, sadly, my buddy Ethan Ritchie couldn't represent us and be here with us, but he helps out with work.
Yeah.
He helps out with all the equipment and setting up the stations for editing.
Yeah. And we primarily use iMovie for editing, but we also have some people who are trained in another software called Premiere Pro. So we have some people who edit with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay, so yeah.
All right, thank you. Guys, when it started out, they had little pieces they put together, and I would be up late stitching it all together on Thursday nights. Every week, though, they do more and I do less, and they get better at what they're doing. We're doing what we can. We typically will plan things out. I've used Google Docs to sort of collaborate ahead of time, have virtual meetings, and then Thursday after school is kind of our work time. We get in, we do our recording, and then we stitch it all together. And so a lot of these guys will take their study hall time. They've got a bunch of seniors here. Got some great leadership. I'm really proud of these guys and what they put together. They'll be taking their lunch time and combine it with, study hall time and whatever time they can scrape together outside of their classes to put some stuff together. Lots of creativity. I give them a direction and they run. And so I've been really proud and pleased to see what they've come up with. I know we are discussing, and I put in a proposal for an elective course for next year that would be video broadcasting. A number of schools have that. Chillicothe in particular, I drew a lot from their syllabus. So that'll be something that hopefully we'll get before the board soon. But there's a lot of career opportunities and applications here with new graduation pathways. And what I love about this is we got all these new programs and it's drawing in kids who are finally finding a niche for them, finding something that combines their passions and their talents with new and growing career opportunities and get them pointing in their direction where they can be successful. So, thank you.
I love the videos.
I'll tell you what, for those who haven't seen it, I'll just go ahead and play the last, they're short, but let me go ahead and play this, and you might want to get the light there as I blow this up.
Anyone that's been in the high school in the morning should get the opening joke here.
Full screen is unavailable. Well, I guess we'll watch it here.
Note the high school student pair in their natural habitat. Even the confines of their environment, they cannot help but succumb to their instincts and repeatedly migrate in an orbital pattern whilst locked in conversation. In larger concentrations, they tend to congregate at inopportune times, especially in high-traffic areas, reducing the efficiency of their otherwise instinctive migratory patterns.
The girls' volleyball team finished their season with an overall record of 10-14 and an OCC record of 6-6.
The boys volleyball ended their season with a record of 22-2, concluding with a regional championship quarterfinal loss to Archbishop Moeller of Cincinnati.
The boys' varsity football team finished with a record of 6-4, our first winning season since 2013.
And a big congrats to our own Wyatt Gregory for setting a school football record with 2,041 rushing yards.
So bored right now. Yeah. Oh, let's do some ice cream. I know, that's not yeah, that's kind of random. This ice cream. Did you hear that? It's the winter, but it's too good to be true. Just go. What?
2, 3, 4.
Ice cream! Ow! Great! Ice cream! Where is it? I don't see it! Ice cream! If we were in track, we would have caught that. Maybe we should go to the track meeting on the... Let's cut this line! Did you know we put a GoPro on the tuba? It's called a sousaphone, but yes, we did. We actually have some footage. Oh wow, really? Can we play that footage? Yes. The next clip you're about to see is from our senior sousaphone donor person in the song "Give Me Everything Tonight."
Name this Brothers Grimm fairy tale character that is called to let down your hair. Cinderella. Name this group of states that seceded from the Union prior to the U.S. Civil War. Canada. Since replaced Jojen Reed on the Soft and Violent HBO series based on George R.R. Martin's novels. The Walking Dead. Brilliant. Excellent. Well done.
Those answers were painful, but if you come to Mr. Fetter's room 213 after school on Fridays, you might finally know more than this old geezer in the know.
Who do you call a geezer?
Doc, there's nothing wrong with my horse.
Earl, that's a groom, not a horse.
Really? Okay, Doc.
Man.
24 hours later.
I got my horse, Doc.
That's still a groom. Come on, man.
Sorry, Doc. Okay, Doc.
24 hours later.
Hey, Earl.
Alright, I got my new horse, but there's something wrong with him.
What is it?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the doctor.
Well, it's hard to tell, but I think he's a little hoarse.
24 hours later.
Alright, Doc, how's my horse?
Luckily, his condition is stable.
What am I doing again? Alright, yeah, alright. I forgot. Why did I take this job? On this day in 1867, the first stock ticketer is unveiled in New York City. The advent of the ticketer ultimately revolutionized the stock market by making up-to-the-minute prices available to investors around the country. Prior to this development, information from the New York Stock Exchange, which has been around since 1792, traveled by mail or messenger. Because back in my day... Cut it now. We don't have time for this. Just cut it. I said cut it. Cut it. Ready? Cut it.
Let's go, guys. You know, the seniors are going to win tonight. We got 21-14. We're feeling great. It's a little cold, but we're not going to lose. We got the best defense, best offense. Juniors better watch out. They don't know what's coming for them. It's only halftime. They're going down, okay? So, like,
Against the seniors.
pretty good. Pretty good. Sometimes. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah?
You know,
You got my energy?
yeah, heck yeah. We're here for fun, baby. That's
Hey, do you want to tell the school? physical power club game. I'm going to enter into the seating area right now. Alright, now we're going to try to get into the press box. Follow me.
Run up. Keep on running. Oh, first round senior.
Can we get some MVTV interviews?
I have 406,000 followers. I'm getting nothing off.
That was awesome. That was press box at the start of the game, 2019. There's the game right here. It's a good one. I'm gonna tell you that. All right, sign out. All right, these are the coaches. Now, which one of you teaches the senior citizens?
We teach both together.
What about the seniors?
I was seniors, he was juniors.
Yeah. So you had the winning team.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I did not.
Yeah.
Awesome. Anything else about?
We appreciate the play on it, coaches. We love you and Nate.
Get better. Get better soon. You're set. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Hi, I'm Amanda Steinmetz.
And I'm Joseph Kennedy.
And we are two of Mount Vernon High School's CAC members.
Many of the students here at Mount Vernon High School know about New Directions Teen Advisory Council, aka TAC. TAC is a student-based leadership program started by New Directions. New Directions is a domestic violence crisis center within Knox County. TAC's most popular event is the Color for a Cause 5K Color Run, which takes place in August. TAC's main goal is to educate teens about healthy relationships, substance abuse, and mental health. Additionally, TAC looks good on college applications.
TAC will be hosting a youth leadership event today during school hours. Schools all over from Knox County will gather to listen to the guest speakers and do team building activities with the goal of helping students better develop their leadership skills to better their communities. You can learn more about TAC and possibly join at New Directions website, newdirectionshelter.org.
I'll tell you why. Look at you, look at me, the way you move, you know it's easy to see.
All right. Well, it doesn't look like you have any fun, but.
All working out.
Well, thank you. Scott, anything to finish up with the high school highlights for tonight?
Just we want to thank the board and community for support of these programs, because I know it takes resources to be able to do things like this and to get equipment to our kids to be able to produce and do the things they're doing. So we are very thankful to everyone for that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go ahead and move into some of our other monthly reports, but at this time, we'll get into.
We'll do Hayden first before everybody leaves.
Yeah.
Hayden's here. Yeah.
Is she here? There she is.
Yep.
Come on over here and do your student government report, Hayden.
Well, my report is not going to be as entertaining as the last,
Okay.
but I'll try my best. So, as we saw the powder puff, we raised $1,700 for that for the prom and graduation. And the National Honor Society induction was last week. And I can't remember the amount of new students we have in the program, but we're pretty excited to have them. I'm a member of National Honor Society myself, and I know that a lot of us are. We, as you know, fall sports are ending and winter sports are starting. in the play that we had, the mime production. I didn't hear how that went, but I'm sure a couple of you are probably in it.
I don't think you heard anything at the mic.
Oh, shing.
Josh did an outstanding job there, I gotta tell you.
And we had FFA in Indianapolis for a national FFA convention, and I heard that we two of our students, Braden Burke and Luke McKee, received the American FFA degree, which is the highest degree that you can receive. And the Yellow Jacket Drive is completed, and it's gotten a new pickup and drop-off system, and I've heard that it's working pretty well. The academic boosters meet the second Tuesday of every month at 7 in the library. And the sophomores today had their Career Center, the Knox County Career Center visitation. I was passing out passes first period, and I know a lot of the students seem pretty excited about that. And as we also heard, the TAC Leadership Conference was on Friday. And I personally went to that, and I thought that it was very informative and really helpful. I went to it last year as well. And I just really like being able to hear new ways that I can help everyone. It's just really informational, and I love going to those things. So, any questions about life?
Thank you, Hayden.
Thank you. Thank you.
Darcy, anything from you? No. Mike's not here and no participation. Okay. Well, that's going to take us to the boilerplate of our board session tonight. You are more than welcome to stay, but we certainly understand that there's probably lots of homework to do, right? And some other things. So again, we appreciate you being here. Again, you're welcome to stay as we kind of go through the business portion, but otherwise, we thank you for coming. As we move forward on the agenda under additions and deletions, I did add a couple sections to the items for information, and the superintendent section, of course, will be right at that coming up next. So just some items for information to share with the board. So as we're there, I know as is tradition, we will sometimes share any OSBA highlights that we had from the conference. I know there were a few folks that shared little bits and pieces, but would anybody have a desire to share a specific section or a session that they went to just kind of highlight to the board?
I went to one session and I brought back information. It was very interesting in that the school, I believe, was following Dublin Coughlin, and it created just a calendar so you could see every school event going on, like that Monday or that Tuesday. It was just a clear image, and you could highlight on it, and then, it would explain. But I thought that was so beneficial. I like that idea. I know we have sometimes some different events going on, different elementaries or different buildings, and it's confusing. You'll go to one website. So I thought that was a cool idea.
Sounds neat.
Mm-hmm.
I know we're having conversations about, believe it or not, updating our website. I mean, it's been 5 years now. And John Fry does a fantastic job of keeping that updated. But believe it or not, over a 5-year period of time, it just continues to change, and technology changes. And those kind of features are things that we want to make sure we can take advantage of. So I think, you'll find us looking at just updating that, because it's a communications piece.
Oh, yeah. And then just, encouraging seniors and the community and having special events for them to attend. It seemed like a really nice idea. I got some brochures.
One of the sessions I went to, the last one I went to, was how to retain students in your school system. And some of the highlights of that, we do some of those things, and I can't remember the school system right now, but the things that they were doing, we have some of those in place, but a few other ones could possibly be utilized here, and I didn't bring all of those notes with me, but That was excellent. And then the SEL one, of course, was great. And I can't remember if that in that session or not, but there was one session where a school also was using that Brain Quest that Matt was talking about last week or last month. So, like you said, a lot of the things we're doing here, but it was, I thought it was a great conference. I have some highlights later from the legislative report.
Okay, good.
I kind of highlighted on mine. I did, like I said, I did the SEL action in every classroom, which was really, and talking about how we need to be intentional with our students. And that was really, and then building those relationships. The one thing they talked about was having parent university days, bringing parents in. That was really, and having sessions with parents on a given day. Just anything from technology to parenting, what are some of the things we're doing and dealing with on SEL and trauma and that kind of stuff. So just kind of educating our parents. And then the other one was creating a trauma-informed school. A lot of the trauma is how do we remove those barriers for those students, and that's key in dealing with the students. And then I also went to one that I guess was kind of self-fulfilling, pre-K to kindergarten transition. So that was very interesting, and talking about how we bridge those gaps. So that was very informative. So that was good too. So I enjoyed my limited time there, but it was good. I'm glad I was able to spend the amount of time that I was able to. So
I already referenced the education and automation one that I attended, but it really caught my attention when they were asking the question, how thoughtful is the design of curriculum in all fields being taken into account, accounting for technology and automation in our school districts. And I think we saw an example of that tonight where we're reaching out and providing opportunity. But then they have to understand that the person who's teaching this, the two people that were teaching this, one is superintendent at Batavia Schools, and then another one was a ag technology teacher previously. I can't remember which school, in Hamilton Schools. Anyhow, those two formed up to put together this presentation, and then beyond saying, we need to provide exposure to broader things in schools and identify those things that are important to the students and help them build on those. I thought the other night at a meeting that we had, you had mentioned about a student who likes to talk, and that stuck with me. And sometimes one wants to silence them, when in reality figure how to capitalize on that and help them to develop those for the future. It stuck with me, Mary, so, since I like to talk. But it also then goes on to say that, but does our community recognize the need for that? Since they're the ones who are the taxpayers and the ones who are wanting to invest in our schools, but sometimes they can get fixed into certain things and not understand what's out here. So someone in this presentation talked about the difference between education and edutainment, right? And being able to help people understand there's a difference. And we have to make sure it's understood that it's education and not just entertaining our students. So anyhow, that was all just in one thing. So that's pretty good.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Well, most of the sessions I attended were obviously financial, and there was a lot of apprehension in those. So
Well, I got to enjoy actually spending some time with Gary and sharing with him all my crazy visions and ideas. And he's talking to me about, well, we got to talk about how we can fund some of those things. But I did go to a couple that I thought were kind of pertinent and relevant to today. I went to one called Vapes and Dabs. You know, vaping in schools today is as high as it's ever been. I know in just a short 2 years, it's grown almost 30% in a lot of places, and how to combat some of those vaping things. I know, believe it or not, October 17th, just less than a month ago, they passed a law here in Ohio that you had to be 21 years old now to even buy nicotine, let alone some of these other things. And what the national research has said is that kids are actually gone away from traditional cigarettes. They've gone to these flavored kind of cigarettes and vaping, and so we'll see how the national stage plays relative to that. But it's certainly something that I know, talking to both Scott and Darren, I mean, we're not naive to know that we don't have that going on, and so we've got to deal with that. I did see a neat thing from King's Local Schools down around Mason, Ohio, around Kings Island. They had a large facility master planning piece, and believe it or not, they're using Thought Exchange. And it was neat to see that they're doing some of the community engaged things that we're doing, and so that was it was good to see that we're kind of on that community engagement type of a piece. And the last one that really struck my eye was from Perrysburg School up around Toledo. It's called "Is Your District Culturally Intelligent?" A cultural kind of an IQ. And so cultural intelligence is not about being an expert on diversity, but it is about an awareness and knowledge of your own culture as well as others, your ability to reflect on biases, your interest and motivation to understand people who are different. And it all started with them with educating their staff. And kind of went through a really unique implicit bias kind of exercise that even among us in the room was really interesting. One I'd like to share with you at some point, that just, it just forces you to take a step back and listen. So certainly 3 sessions that kind of caught my eye, and it was good to be able to spend some time with you. And Mary, we got a chance to touch bases on a couple of occasions. So thanks for your willingness to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
It was worth the money to go.
Oh, absolutely.
It truly is, to see what is going on in the state of Ohio.
Yeah. And a lot of times, like you said, or many of you have said, it's almost a verification of some of the things that we're doing.
Absolutely.
And we don't want to be way out in front, but it's okay to be out there and pushing the envelope a little bit, but then to have that validated, quite frankly, because other schools are seeing value in it as well. The other items for information in the superintendent section, the Chamber's annual dinner and award ceremony is coming up in January. And so as the board would get a chance to take a look at that, I'll have Terry kind of reach out to see if there is interest from board members to attend that Chamber Awards dinner coming up. So the award is there. The other thing that I do, and I'm going to kind of pull this up, item number 3 there is district calendar review for 2021. Believe it or not, we're back to looking at calendar options again. It feels like every year we begin to have those conversations, and like we just got done with it. And so I thought just really quickly with a few slides, I'd run down through these for you. Obviously, there was several years ago, there was a legislative requirement that required us to have a meeting to discuss some of the calendar issues that we face today. And this is part of that legislative requirement. Again, just as a reminder, district calendars, hours, grades K through 6 are required to have 910 hours of instruction, grades 7 through 12, 1,001. There are some deductions in there. And so you'll see on there the hours of instruction of our current calendar year. So we far exceed the number of hours from a state minimum requirement. And yet you can see the actual difference here. Calamity days and delays and those things, that comes out of that pot. And so we're always mindful of that when we look at another calendar as we move forward. Just to give you a quick historical update, this year our first day was Wednesday, August 21st for students. We started a week later than all the other county schools. And so while, that was interesting in its own right, it does cause some challenges too. And our first day for teachers was the August 16th. Our last day will be May 27th with students. The last teacher day is the 29th. That's about a week later than some of our county schools as well. The instructional hours are listed there for you based upon our current schedule. Some things we have to consider when looking at our calendar on a yearly basis. We have 2 union contracts that do have some language in there that we're always mindful of. The law requirements, we do have new transparency rules where we have to 30 days prior have a notice of public hearing, and that's what this is meeting that requirement. Calendars cannot really reduce hours unless the board approves them. New calendar cooperation rules. We met as a superintendent group in Knox County last Friday, and I can tell you 3 of the 5 county schools already have their calendars in play. And so we find ourselves kind of in that conversation as to how we can work together. And more importantly, it's the Career Center that we're really mindful of because of transportation and so on and so forth. And conversely, if you're a Career Center, you're kind of in a unique position because you've got all these, surrounding districts that you're trying to coordinate with as well. And so I put down here that today, November 18th, will be our 30-day prior notice. What I did, though, just to give you a quick introduction here, so some considerations that we have: teachers start and end, students start and end, holidays, staff in service, graduations. I do want to highlight that this is tentative school district calendar information. Not all of the districts here have gone to board adoption yet. So I think that's really important to note. But when you start talking about teacher start and end, what I've done is I've listed them across the top here. So, So you've got East Knox, Centerburg, Fredericktown, the Career Center, Clear Fork, Danville, and we're working on ours currently. You're going to see some similarities here. So teacher starts are, generally in the same ballpark. You will notice Clear Fork is much, much later. And you'll notice Danville is really, really early. And so we've got some nuances in between. First day of students is always kind of interesting to look at. 8/19 is there for East Knox and Centerburg. We're waiting on Fredericktown stuff. I know they have an administrative meeting tomorrow. The Career Center is alternating the 17th and the 18th. Clear Fork is starting on the 31st of August, going there. I believe Fredericktown may be along a little later starting time. And then, of course, you got Danville there. Interestingly enough, I've had the Mount Vernon News contact me here today about Thanksgiving break. You'll notice there, all of our districts generally will take Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and the following Monday. And the question that was posed to me is, what is it about Mount Vernon that they don't take the Mondays? And I said, you know what, let's just take a step back and look. So I went back to calendars dating back to 1992, and for the last 28 years, Mount Vernon City Schools has only taken the Monday, year opening season, off twice in 28 years. And so I don't know exactly why, but it is something that, we'll certainly take a look at and consider. I even went back over the last 2 years with Kathy's help, and she was really helpful in this. Probably over the last 2 years on that opening gun season Monday, high school attendance rates are about 12% less. They drop about 12% on that particular day. Middle school's much less, about 5%, but then you have to really make some interesting decisions, because if that's a day we do not come to school, then that affects other days in the calendar that, it's all about a give and a take, because we're in school just so many days a year. Winter break seems to be lining up pretty close to everybody a year out. It seems weird to talk about winter break when we haven't even gotten to ours yet. But because Clear Fork starts so late, you'll notice they've shaved a few days off compared to what everybody else is looking at right now. Staff in-service days seem to be kind of consistent. This year we're at 6 days. And so you're seeing some similarities there. Danville actually has 5 full days and 4 half days or delayed starts. So that's interesting. Spring break is seeming to kind of all fall in line. Kind of backs right into the last couple days in March through Good Friday. There is one district that I think is not in session, Danville, on that Monday after Easter. Graduation looks kind of interesting. You'll notice here, again, these are tentative, so please don't take these out of here and say, oh, they're automatically doing it. But Centerburg may be looking to graduate on the 16th of May. And yet, you've got some districts that vary in there. So, and then you'll see last day for students is kind of still right there at the end of May. Next year, Memorial Day is really, really late in May. It's like the 29th, 30th, 30. It's in that frame. So we take these seriously because we want to be good cooperating neighbors in transportation, and yet we have to meet our needs as well. And so I thought that was interesting for your review. Any questions or comments relative to the master schedule as we kind of begin to put pen to paper on ours?
How do you think the in-service days are working out for Mount Vernon?
I think they were much needed, and I think we're continuing to refine exactly what we're doing in those professional development days. We've even made some tweaks with both Eric and Kathy's help. A couple of the first days were a lot about some of our pilot pieces, and those are important things that we're doing, but yet it doesn't necessarily involve the entire district. And so we certainly have our share of district initiatives that we will want to continue to focus in some time. And so quality professional development is just vital if a district is going to improve. It just really is. Any other thoughts?
I appreciate the side-by-side comparison. One sheet makes it nice and easy.
Yeah, it does.
So I appreciate it.
Those are kind of tentative. Any interesting thoughts with Thanksgiving and that Monday? 28 years, only 26 of the 28. We've not taken that day off. I don't know if that's is something that you would want us to consider. Again, realizing there's give and take.
Gosh, I don't know. At the elementary level, we were like, okay, this is just what we do, and we just go. I mean,
a lot of districts don't take the 2 days off like we do for parent-teacher conferences. So then we find ourselves having to capture a day back there. And so there is a lot of kind of give and take to try to make the hours work for being in session. So anyway, if you have any thoughts, don't be afraid to share those. We'll come back to you probably in December with some options to consider. Taking into account all of the things that we just shared with you there. Okay? All right, and the final 2 things under items for information is just a reminder. We tentatively changed last year our board meeting to the second Monday of the month, which was December 9th, in anticipation of, the holiday season concert schedule that is just incredible, that Pam outdoes me with every year and getting to more than I get to, and we compare notes every day. As luck would have it, we have nothing on Monday, December 9th. And so we could do a typical 6 o'clock if you would like to go back to our regular time on December 9th for that board meeting. And that may be something that I think it's been advertised according to Terry as a 5:30. Do you have it in your?
I had it as 6 in my calendar here. I don't
checking
remember.
mine. I don't have it in mine at all.
I had it at 5:30. Maybe it was a mistake.
She said that too, so, you know, when Terry
Terry usually knows
speaks,
what
it's
she's
gospel
doing,
for me,
yes.
but,
And I know last year we did it because there was another program,
Yeah.
though. There was a program.
On the website, it says 4:30.
see, that's what Gary thought too.
Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
4:30 is on the website.
And see, last year we did do it at 4:30 because we knew
it's off and out, yeah.
that we had a concert coming up at,
Was it the high school?
at the NAS. So,
I can't comment to it because last week I was, had something put on that for that day that's non-optional. So I'm up and that's not by,
So what time could you do?
I may not be able to be back until late, so I'm gonna be in Cleveland that day, so I can't change it, so.
well, it seems like it's been published in a couple different places, perhaps differently, and so I think it would be good for us to establish what we want that meeting to be here tonight, so that we can get it out to the outlets, the media outlets. December 9th is the second Monday. There are no concerts that night, and so I would probably suggest, if that's okay, we keep it at 6 o'clock.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. I don't think that we need a motion relative to a change in that time, or do you think we do, Ms. Getzman?
I don't believe we would.
Okay. We'll just make sure that we write that in the notes, and we make sure we get it out. Item 5, the last item for information is, we kind of leave the second half of the year open for a board organizational meeting. That organizational meeting must take place by January 15th. It just so happens that the second Monday in January is the 13th. And so if you could put on your schedules that we'll go January 13th on that Monday, unless there's conflicts with that Monday, but we do have to get this board meeting in before the 15th. Does anybody have any problems with January 13th at 6 o'clock other than Cheryl? You can still come. Or you'll be in Savannah, Georgia, just enjoying the weather.
Yeah.
So is that a 6 organizational and 6:30 regular? Don't we typically separate those out?
I think we have in the past. Have we done 5:30 and 6?
We've done 5:30 and 6.
Would that be the, would
Or
that be?
5:30 and following, is how
5:30
it's
and
phrased.
following.
So,
Would that be the druthers of the board?
If that's
5:30 organizational followed by a regular board meeting?
Sure. Okay, so
Okay.
5:30?
So we'll go ahead and we'll put that in the minutes as well. So with all that being said, I only have a couple items for board approval in the superintendent section. There are 2. This is the second month for looking at board policies. I've shared with you kind of the overviews and the specific policies. Almost all of these have been recommended as needed items by Neola. And I know I've heard from a couple of you at different times and feel like we've been able to answer your questions. The second item in this section is home community school student participation in athletics.
All right, I would entertain a motion then for approval of board policies and the homeschool student.
So move.
And a second, please? Thank you. Mrs. Dye made the motion and Mr. Thompson second. Can you call the roll, please?
Any discussion beforehand?
Sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Mrs. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzman.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Under the next section, curriculum instruction, staff development, and planning. The only item for information there is a student liaison report from Dr. Bennett. I'll let you have an opportunity to read that at your leisure. We have no items for board recommendation in this section at this meeting. So we'll move on to fiscal services.
Trying to open in that financial report there.
getting in the habit of going up here. I apologize.
That's great.
So if you'll keep scrolling, Mr. Cedar. This is kind of boilerplate here, fairly typical in terms of what you would see on a month-to-month basis. I do want to point a couple of things out in the next page. If you would scroll down, your typical monthly report, you will notice, trying to get my bearings here.
Do you want this, Gary?
Nope, you will notice a fairly significant amount of money there. Thank you. That is a refund from BWC. That system is set up in a way that confuses me, but I'm learning it. We pay in a lot of money and then we typically get a very large refund. I wish they could kind of get it to where we paid about what we owed, but that's how it works, and we'll certainly take the money back. Something else I wanted to point out is you will see in terms of our salaries. So in this area, we're running at about 30%, which since we're a quarter of the way through the fiscal year, that would be a little low. But keep in mind in the month of November, we have 3 pays. So it's going to be right where it's supposed to be as we get through the month of November. Change to the next page unless anyone has any questions. Obviously our investments, I mentioned this in the preview, they continue to do well. We will start to see this slow down rather significantly as the money we invested after receiving it for the project, we are starting to pull that back in to pay the bills. So obviously we'll have less money out invested, therefore we will be earning less interest from that money. And this is your typical stuff there. Feel free to read and ask me any questions if you have them. So, 5-year forecast. So there's a lot of information in here. I will take any questions obviously, but I'm going to focus on this page. I know you guys can pull it up if you're having trouble seeing the screen here. See if you have any questions over this. I will give you a couple of talking points, and then you can let me know if you have any questions. The really good news about this forecast is that our cash balance is projected to be more than 10% of our annual operating revenue this year and next year, which we have a biennial budget. So that is the good news. It means that you as a board and G and Bill as the administration did a great job piloting the district, because to be perfectly honest, I sat in a meeting today and many districts, unfortunately, for their for their 5-year forecast has had to include a staff reduction tab now. Due to the fact that we were flat funded from the state, many districts are in a situation where they do not have a 10% carryover of their annual revenue. So they are already talking about how they're going to reduce staff. Fortunately, we are not in that situation. So the following years are obviously more difficult to project. Obviously this fiscal year and next, we feel pretty solid about that because we have a budget from the state. Beyond that, we make assumptions, to be perfectly honest. The way I wanted to make the assumptions, working with our 5-year forecast entity, is just based on trends that have happened through the past. So we like to look at 5 years worth of data, average it, and try to figure out what's going to happen from there, unless we know of something that's way out in left field. So as you look at this forecast, the years beyond these next 2 become a little more challenging, and we may, if we do not get some additional revenue from the state, have to look towards making some decisions. But the great thing is, like I said, for the next 2 years, we're on solid financial footing in terms of having that 10% carryover. So here's the information. It'd be hard for me to point things out here, but if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I will make one more point, sorry. As we got out to years 3, 4, and 5 of this, generally from the state, the trend data that I talked about, we would get about a 4.5% increase each year. Well, obviously being flat funded this year, we're not exactly sure how to project years 3, 4, and 5. Will it go back to a 4.5-year increase, or will it not? So my estimates were very conservative, less than 1% increase going in years 3, 4, and 5. So although those look like some challenging years, that remains to be seen in terms of what kind of budget comes out from the state. But I wanted to be very conservative because I would rather us be in a situation where we get really good news, then have to come back and give you really bad news.
And I think it's important to note that this is year one, all right, this is year two. What you're noticing here on this line is where you begin to do revenues over expenditures. We're still okay next year, but based upon the projections we have, in the third year, or 2021-22, we're now into deficit spending. And then in the following year, year three of this 5-year forecast, we are starting to really find ourselves into some deficit spending. Of course, pending nothing changes. And so we need to watch that really carefully. And the practice that I've had since I've come here is we will continually look at positions through attrition or retirement and ask the tough questions. Do we need to replace those positions? Because 80% of our $40 million budget is in salaries and fringe benefits. And that's the only place that you can really see what I would call real appreciable opportunities to save. I hope that that's not the case, but this is why we do a forecast. And, you know, this board has always been served well when those, when the revenues and the expenditures begin to cross, to begin to start having conversations. And you can see, based upon what we know right now, that will be probably in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll be really starting to have those conversations. And it also belies a point that I'm so thankful of our working relationship with both of our unions. You know, we saw this as we negotiated last spring, that this could be coming. And to our union's credit, I mean, you know, 1.5% increase was you know, not what everybody had hoped for, but there was a recognition that, you know, this could be coming, and so let's be proactive. And so I greatly appreciate their willingness to understand all of this and work with us. But there will be a point where we'll have to go probably back to the voters for new money within the next 2 to 3 years.
As far as our students that are going out of the district, has that changed much?
Haven't really looked at it much this year. I think, quite frankly, it's remained pretty consistent.
Well, that's good, you know, that more.
We don't keep losing more and more every year. We were pretty balanced there for a while, and then we kicked up to where a few more went out. I feel like it's come back a little bit. The Digital Academy has certainly brought some students back into a positive situation for us, but that will be a battle where it will always be a bit of a challenge. And I know it's a similar battle for other districts as well.
Sure.
There was a time where East Holmes was losing a lot of students. And once they got back on better financial footing, they've had some success in certain areas. Now they're getting some students back, so to speak, which is what they would want, but sometimes they leave us to go back. And so, you know, we find ourselves battling that a little bit.
A conference I went to today, they distributed this, and this is a representation of the entire state. So you can see that based on the forecasts that have been submitted, the entire state is anticipating being in very similar shape due to the freeze of state funding. I actually thought that the one in the top left corner was very interesting, because you can see statewide averages, revenues and expenditures crossing in 2019. We didn't experience that, and that's kudos to the Board of Education, Mr. Cedar, and to Judy Forney and your guys' leadership, because you were able to push that off further than the state average. So I felt like this was interesting information that you guys might find informative.
Who sponsored that conference you went to, Gary?
It was actually, conference is probably the wrong word. It was more of a, how do I describe it? It was a company interested in securing our business in this field.
Oh, I see.
And we currently work with a company, but always looking to save money, so kind of just doing a comparison.
Okay.
Well, I think this is the opportunistic time to just say a special thank you to our community, quite frankly. We passed a combination levy. It was a renewal levy, so it was no new increase in taxes, but those were revenues that we have depended upon for a long, long time. And if that wouldn't have been renewed, this forecast would look completely different. I mean, it still has its challenges out a couple years here, but without that renewal, we would be in a much different position. So, you know, I think we actually the people we thank the most is our community for their support.
On top of that, and by the way, I do appreciate, always appreciate more comparisons of how we stack up against other school districts and the state and so forth. This is very telling. But I also would say we also have to be consistent in our message so that people don't lose sight of the fact that the facilities that we're building, this major project, is primarily through funding or gifts, if you will, right? Not taxpayer dollars. So other than what we're doing with the bus garage, right? So it's really important because some people will forget that along the way.
Well, and
right?
I've had discussions where I've needed to explain, you know, and I even wonder if we maybe should have some type of just in the know form of what's going on, and that we are planning on the community to access, you know, the track. It all needs to be worked out. I mean, they're excited, but they quite don't understand, and you know, I'm kind of interested.
Mr. Sanford Friday morning is doing Java with the Jackets at Happy Bean, and I think I'm not sure if it's once a month. Darcy, do you know is it once a month or that he's downtown? And I was able to go last month, or the last one, I should say, and it was very informative. And there were 3 community members there, and we're very appreciative of the building, and he was able to answer. Yeah, he was able to answer those questions, and one of the gentlemen was an older gentleman, and was glad to hear that the facility will be open at some point in time for
because
the
that's all
public's
good
use.
news.
Absolutely, yeah.
is.
So it was good. It was very
And I
informative.
just want to make sure that people don't lose sight of that. And on the flip side, I wouldn't want people to think that wellness money is really has an impact here either.
Yeah.
Am I correct in that? Right?
Right, the new added features
Yeah,
that we'll be doing.
Those finances won't be going towards the Gateway project whatsoever.
No, but I mean towards our overall.
General
expenditure.
Right? That's, so
It's
we're not
separate.
spending money over here on the facilities, right? The field house and that, but don't misunderstand that wellness money is not coming in here to rescue the day.
Right.
Right?
No, it has
in our
nothing
general
to do with
fund,
that. No.
right? So.
Good point.
All good points.
Ready for donations? We have several donations. We're always blessed. We have such a generous community, as Mr. Cedar mentioned. Only when it comes time to renew our levy, but every month we seem to have a long list of donations. We have one from Chuck Gerben. He donated a trumpet to the music department. We have a donation from the Culbertson family of 11 backpacks to Dan Emmett Elementary School. We have a donation from Addison Cooperrider of 26 books to the Twin Oak Library. And as was previously mentioned by Dr. Dill, we have a donation from the Friends of Wigan Street in the amount of $14,105 for Fontes Guided Reading, grades 1 and 3. So that is pretty awesome. I think this district does something incredible with the memorial books. Obviously, we would rather not be, memorializing people. We wish they were still with us, but it is quite the honor that the district bestows upon our employees by doing this. So we have a book donated in memory of Cinda Lou Davis, who is the mother of Todd Doyle, our computer technician for the district. The book is titled The President is Missing and was donated to the Mount Vernon High School. We have a donation in memory of Jack Dean Zedeker, father of Patricia Spence, who was a cook at Mount Vernon High School. The book is titled The Kind of War, the Classic Korean War History, and it was also donated to Mount Vernon High School.
All right, thank you, Gary, for all of that information. And I would take a motion for approval of fiscal services.
I'll make the motion.
And second?
Second.
Any questions, comments?
Thank you.
All right, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson. Yes. Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Motion carried. On to business services. Mrs. Dye.
Thank you. The link there is not necessarily connected to what I'm going to talk about. During the OSBA conference, I had the opportunity to hear from two state legislators, freshmen, Representative Don Jones from the 95th District and Representative Lisa Sabalti from the 45th District, and they are both on the Education Committee. And a great deal of time was spent discussing the effects of the insertions into HB 166, which was the biennium budget. And the entire time that we were there was basically focused on the next few items. Education choice, and this was put in at the last minute, an expansion with vouchers, and what our concern was is that the expansion of the vouchers was based on data from 2013 here in the state of Ohio. And this choice allows any student who never even attended a public school to utilize a voucher. And then the second piece was the biennium budget has placed a hold on any new academic distress commissions, which we were pleased to hear about that. HB 154 is new, and it would eliminate the academic distress commissions, but it's been stalled in the Senate Education Committee, so we're not sure that that will go anywhere. Back to HB 166, the biennium budget. Of course, we have the frozen funding, and all public schools will receive the same funding in 2020 as in 2019, and there will be no new funding for new students that come into our district. There is that funding we discussed about the student wellness, but these funds, of course, are limited in use. HB 305, the Cupp-Patterson bill regarding state funding, is stuck in committee, and the reason is because they want to know how the money is going to be distributed more closely to rural districts. And that is one of the reasons that Cupp-Patterson bill is stalled. And then back into the HB 166 again, they are addressing the state report cards and seeing what they can do with changes to those. And this was given to a panel to look into, and they are supposed to submit their findings by next month, December 15th. And neither of the legislators thought that this was actually going to happen. It was just such a tight time frame, and there's so many different issues with that state report card. Then the final thing that many people were concerned about was the insertion into HB 166 of a territory transfer. And this allows electors in a township, any township, that is split between two districts, school districts, may petition for transfer of their territory to another district. And they don't need any more than 10 signatures to put it on the ballot, because it's based on the 10% of the voting that we had in the last election. So they only need 10 signatures. And then if it is approved by the people who vote in that little small area, according to this I think it was Mr. Jones, excuse me, I'm sorry. The State Board of Education doesn't even have a choice in approving this, that they have to approve it. And that means that our local boards of education would be required to divide the funds and indebtedness between the districts. And one superintendent has already seen this happening in his district. So it's just a really strange
Do you
thing.
remember which bill that was again?
It was inserted in the biennium budget with no deliberation, no.
I would think we'd want to talk to Jeanette Curry, because, you know, the tax department and how is that distributed?
There's more
that's
questions. There's more questions with this than there are answers right now.
Because, you know, in your tax statement, you see your tax district.
So it makes it sound like if a township borders, you know, part of the township's in one district and parts in the other, the township can maybe make a decision that they want to go all one or all another?
Or just that small group of people in that little bit of territory. That's why it's called the territory transfer and not like a whole township transfer.
Because, you know, there's Ohio Revised Code, and this is true for us. We have a lot in Apple Valley, and the parcel's divided. So our tax statement says Mount Vernon, and it also says Danville. I mean, we're back by the marina. So isn't that interesting, the way? And then it seemed to me we were told that there is Ohio Revised Code. It's like where the house would be positioned in the parcel that would determine the district.
Where you sleep.
Yeah.
Where the master bedroom is.
Yeah.
We fought with another district one time, and it was where the master bedroom is compared to.
Yeah, so I'm just seeing the complications of just one little parcel in Apple Valley, which is unique. That's interesting.
Yeah, it was a big concern, and our people, OSBA, they're really working hard to find out all the ramifications of this and the effect on school districts. But the big concern was that it was just inserted into the budget and no discussion. Nothing was talked about in committee or anything before it. So that is the biggie.
That is.
That I went to. So I'll try to get some more information as we go along.
I will say that with regards to the report card, there has been quite a bit of work done independently with OSBA and VASA, and I do have the recommendations and a sense for where some of those things are heading, and I think we feel good about some of that direction. So as soon as that becomes more well-known and kind of know where it's going in both the state and the House, we'll keep you informed.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Under items for board approval, we have our general large list of free facility requests, and you can see those listed there for you. Item 2 in this section is the approval of a Fannie Howey proposal. Fannie Howey is an architectural firm that we're working with. They used to be OHM, if you recall that, till the person we worked with moved. And they're actually putting together a bid spec package for us relative to the Fieldhouse flooring project. And so we had to have someone professionally put that together in the bid specs because it's well over the $50,000 threshold. So those 2 items for your approval.
All right, thank you. I would entertain a motion for the free facilities request and the approval of the Fanning Howey proposal.
So moved.
Thank you. Mrs. Diana, second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Fiesel. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, will you call the roll, please?
Mr. Golodai.
Yes.
Mrs. Fiesel.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson. Yes. Mrs. Getzman.
Yes, thank you. Motion carried. Student services.
I have nothing tonight.
Thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Moving on to personnel.
Under personnel, we have no items for information at this time. We have a number of items for board approval. You'll notice, some simple things, resignation here as it relates to a cheerleading advisor, to the addition of advisors and directors, a list of spring supplementals. We're just starting into winter, but already planning on spring, believe it or not. Some substitute teachers and extracurricular positions, and then one volunteer. Those items for your approval.
Thank you. I would entertain a motion for employment purposes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Dye. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, will you call the roll?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried. Classified staff.
Under classified staff, we have no items for information, but 2 items for board approval. One is a transfer of a 4-hour employee from a second shift to a full-time daytime custodian. And the second is some substitute employment for some aides. Those 2 items for your approval.
Thank you. And I would entertain a motion for those.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. And a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Regola Dye. Any questions? Comments? Hearing none, will you call the roll?
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes. Thank you. Motion carried. And is there a need for?
I have no need for an executive session unless the board would have a need to go into executive session at this time.
No? Any comments before we close the meeting? All right. If not, I would take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Dye. And a second.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Feasel. Will you call the roll, please?
Ms. Regola Dye.
Yes.
Mrs. Feasel.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson.
Yes.
Mrs. Getzmann.
Yes.